I would say, we all suffer from COVID one way or the other. If it's sad to say losing someone in the family, or maybe just getting sick with it, or just being the public eye, because COVID turned people against each other. In my opinion, it's like an apocalyptic feeling. That's what I thought. I guess learn from it. We all got out of it as a whole, as a humanity, and we were held down to do what we love to do. People lost their jobs because of it. People couldn't do their jobs because of the COVID. So I would think turning a negative that bad into a positive, what could you gain from that? What could you look as, what you missed and what can you I think life is more appreciative now than it was back then. I mean, the government got on us for being out. We had to be home at a certain time. That was different. That was hard for a lot of people. Now for me, I can be inside the house. I'm a homebody, or I can go out. I can go either or. But I think COVID as a whole, as a nation of people, we have to learn to be blessed what we have, and treat each other with respect, and get through it together, instead of bashing each other and getting on each other's nerves in a bad way. Learn to forget the past if you can, and move forward from that. And that's what I think COVID, I would encourage people to just learn from what happened to the world, and make it a positive, make your future happen, make it more of a light end in the tunnel.
I think I always said laugh with happy, especially near the end too. It was like, "Are you fucking happy?" or something like that.
Yeah, man, that's a cool ass song. I love that song. It actually came out in 2005. My first job I ever had was when that album came out. So,
yeah, it was badass too. I think it always freaked out my dad too when they used to do like the whole makeup way back in the day. So,
really?
yeah, because he would say it was like Kiss, but like in a lot more metal fashion, to be honest. So I don't know why it freaked him out. 'Cause I think I don't know what happened when Kiss like initially came out, where he was like, "What the hell is this? These guys are dressed up in all makeup and everything too." But like the music kicks ass, and then you go to their live shows and they're still kicking some major ass and everything too. So
yeah, and they're older now. I mean, I just saw a video on Mudvayne's they're touring again, and I just saw their. I think it was last year. They because sometimes videos come out where this you film something, you produce it later on. But I think it was early this year. Mudvayne came with on their YouTube channel, and I'm like, man, the bass player is cut, ripped at his age, and Matt's still kicking amazing drums. But then you look at Chad. Chad is it's kind of aged a little bit, but he still sounds great. He still has that same energy, same power, and they're a cool set of guys. But people, because I think they were the same label at the time. Mudvayne, Slipknot. And I can't think of the other bands. Were on Roadrunner Records, and they were all part of that same era, the same time, the same labels hired all these guys. But Mudvayne had the makeup like in detail, then Slipknot had the mask on with the makeup. But I always thought my dream show to go to is a Slipknot and Mudvayne at the same time. That's my future. Hopefully, I can go to one of those.
I think the other band you're thinking of might have been Mushroomhead. Was the other band you're thinking of with Roadrunner?
Yes, they were on there too. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I thought, in my opinion, that Mushroomhead's masks were way creepier than Slipknot's, in my opinion.
I think you get it right. I think you'd be right, but I didn't really listen to it much, Mushroomhead, to be honest. I maybe heard a couple songs that came on the radio every now and again too, but hey, I respect it for the music too, but not my cup of tea at the moment. Maybe at some point I may like to get into the music. So
I would say their power of what Slipknot does. Slipknot's a way powerful band, way powerful, but look wise and just the way they dress is way more freakier than Slipknot. So you'll see the difference.
I believe you on it. But speaking of Mudvayne too, I think the hilarious thing was they used to do like the bullet holes right in the middle of the head here.
Oh yeah.
I think they were at an award show. I don't know if it was the Academy Awards or something like that. I don't know what they do with music wise, but I think they played the song "Dig" for everybody to hear. So, and I think everyone's like, "What the fuck is this?" or sort of thing.
You should. Did you ever see their Aliens outfit?
I don't think I did. No, I think they stopped doing it after. Was that actually when they first did, before they did LD50?
It was after. I think after, because like you said, the first album was all the makeup, and I think it was the third. No, third. Shoot, Happy was I think the third or fourth album in, and I think is their second one. They get all like it was all aliens. I at the time I was getting a Drummer magazine, and I saw introducing Pearl artists, and they showed the whole band of Mudvayne and showed Matt, and I'm like, who are these guys? And I didn't even know it was Mudvayne until I read the article more, and I said, oh shoot, it's Mudvayne, and they're dressed as aliens. And then they got another outfit later on where they have this, like, there's a video they're playing. I don't know what song. It's one of their hard songs. I mean, really hard songs. It's almost like over a 6-minute song. But they have almost like a corpse looking mask or corpse looking, look to them. But I think they had like 3 sets of through their career. They have like 3 sets of a body armor or body performance armor, you can say. But yeah, that's the Mudvayne now just went back to their day one look now.
Yeah, especially back to the badass days of maybe LD50, but maybe even before that. I think there was the beginning of All Things to Come, and I think that second album you were talking about was the end of All Things to Come. So
yeah, and it's funny with their now this was shocking to me when Mudvayne came out with the album Happy, or not album, it's not Happy, the album, but I forget the name of that album, but Awesome that was Found. Yes, that was their clean look. You could see all the guys' face. I mean, you can see everyone clean as a whistle that I remember, because that Happy video, the guitar player had his hair always spiked up with a bunch of hairspray. I'm assuming you wear hairspray, but he had his hair long. You could actually see his face, and then the bass player everyone was clean cut in that whole album, at least with the videos that I saw of it.
Yeah, Ryan Martini is an absolute beast on that bass too. I think everybody would always make a little meme with the way the way the bass playing was too. I mean, just listen to Nothing to Gain and really any song, really. His bass just dominated over Greg's guitar playing, to be honest.
And it's funny because, the old saying is when you have a great bass player, you're going to have a great drummer to match that, because you can't have an awesome bass player and the drummer's like halfway all right. But, I mean, that they both carried that bottom of that band amazingly. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely, too. I guess speaking of the bands, too, I guess, how many have you been a part of?
I would say about 7 bands or 8 bands through my music career.
I guess we want to go ahead and give us the history on each one, or maybe the ones you had maybe the most fun with. I guess go ahead.
That's fine. So my very first band, it was just out of high school. We all went to the same high school. So 2 of the members of the band already graduated. I was still, my senior year, I was still going in high school at the time they left. And then the school offered us to play, the school talent show. Since I was still there in school, I was able to, ask these guys that used to go to the same school, hey, let's do the talent show. And so we did. And that was honestly, man, my first major big show I ever played. I mean, I played in middle school. I played in, elementary school band, but this was like an auditorium, high school auditorium, and you can sit over 1,000 people in this thing. So we learned 4 songs. We had 2 originals, and we did, a cover. One was the Beatles, called Help, and we did that movie. I don't know if you've heard about it, but you maybe did, That Thing You Do, with Tom Hanks that directed it, about the band The Wonders. Well, we did that song as a second song, and we did our 2 originals at the very end. And I remember that was and then that show is on my Instagram account in the very bottom page of my older pictures. There, it's down there. It has my very first Pearl kit in that picture. I wish I kept that kit. But that was our first show. And then after that show happened, we were still together that was from 2001. We broke up or didn't really have anything after that in 2007. So I was with them almost a decade long. Then after that, I transitioned to another band with a couple of same guys from the same high school, because our high school is very small. We had like over 250. We had 250 students or maybe less. So it was like it was a charter school. But these guys, it was a 3-piece band. Me, an old bass player of mine, and this guy that his name is Ermin. That he played just basic rhythm guitar. It was just more like coming into my second band. It was crazy because I was with my first band for such a long time. I was so used to how they were. it's kind of like almost I felt like I was cheating on my band members, but the band already didn't had their differences and they different goals they wanted to do, and but with these guys who were younger, so I got to play with them for maybe a couple of years. It didn't really last long. It was just like a stepping stone band for me. Played at the same school again, a talent show, but with these guys, and that show I played my reference kit at the time, which is an amazing kit, by the way. And then after that band was over, and then I joined, then I started getting to a little bit of guys a little bit older. I started getting more into the people that were, kind of like more grounded instead of these younger guys that don't know what they want to do. So what I did next is I started playing with guys that probably, like, at the time I was in my like 24, 25 age bracket. So then I started playing guys in their 40s at the time and guys in their 50s, and it was fun. I was with three other bands in the older generation of music. Then they, of course, they're going to play classic rock, AC/DC, Pink Floyd, the classic stuff we all know and hear every day. And that was playing that stuff. Got to play more like Jimi Hendrix, the Stones. Stones were actually cool. I didn't realize when I started playing with these older guys how cool the Stones music really is. Like versus the Beatles, it's like Beatles to me. I mean, I'm not a huge Beatles fan, by the way, but I still respect again music for what it is. But I love the Rolling Stones and their stuff. Their genre, what they have in their category, library music, is like really fun to play. And then that's when I got to more in Jimi Hendrix, like what he did on the classic side. And I mean, Jimi Hendrix was so much fun covers to do. And these guys were all cover bands. I later on I got to like original writers. I got in my mid to late 20s is when I started getting to the originals. But going back to a little bit of this, but I was really happy I got to play with these older musicians because I got to broaden my horizons of older stuff that I wasn't even aware about. Like so many other classic rock bands, The Who, Def Leppard, Deep Purple. At the time I didn't know any of these bands, so that was kind of cool to play with these guys. And I think I was in like two classic rock bands back to back. For one was from 3 years, and the other one for over 2 years. And then after that time, I got with songwriters. Got in my field into the original songwriting music was really cool. I got to be in the studio. That's when the studio time for myself was coming to play. So when I played with a songwriter that was he had like 105 to 150 songs he wrote through many years of his life, and he broke it down in different sections for me to take home and learn. And then eventually, at the time, I was learning his stuff, and he wanted to record. The sad thing about it, his music was so good. His stuff could have been on a movie scene, or end credit scene of a movie. That's how good his stuff was. Sad to say, he just wanted to record, and kind of led me on a little bit, thinking we're going to play this stuff live. And forgive him for that. I'm on the whole grudges against any bands I have in the past, but his stuff was so good. And we got to record in Tempe at the Jim Blossom studio near the Four Peaks Brewery right next door to there. And that's when I really got to like studio work. And when I recorded with him, I recorded his songs. And, I heard the CD at the time. It was good. It could have been more touched up a bit more and a little in the drums and, the stuff he did. But I got to meet the lead singer from Jim Blossoms when he came in the studio. And I recorded with my, at the time, I had a Masters Maple 6-ply chestnut fade pearl kit, which is beautiful finish. And then I had my reference kit. And what's cool about the reference kit, the engineer that recorded me said that, and for two engineers I recorded that drum set in two different studios. And they all both said that that's probably one of the best sounding drum sets they ever recorded with, like, of course, over the drummers at DW and, other high-end drums like that. But I had so many compliments on that. And when the Jim Blossom's lead singer came to the studio to check us out, he complimented on my drum set, and his drummer from the Jim Blossom was a pro drummer too. So it was really cool to hear that, and you hear your drums on recording with these songwriters. It was fun. It's a different story, but with original songwriters, I've learned from them is they tell you what to do, you don't have pretty much nothing to say about it. And if it's their music, you have to respect and be told what the song requires. And that was a little different for me, but I had to learn. I had to learn how to take, criticism. I had to learn how to take direction from someone who wants a certain sound. With cover bands, you don't have to worry about that. The songs are there. You can, mess around with it. You can play around with, the song as it's played. But then really in songwriting with original writers is a whole different story. So I was with 3 other songwriter bands, and then and it was done. I was now starting to be in bands that want to write together, and that's where I'm in right now.
I think you're close to be like.
Huh?
No, you're good. I thought the way the story was kept going too. I think people would have made the joking thing like guy tells a long story, like so people are falling asleep like.
About that.
No, you're all good. You're all good. That's pretty cool. And actually, you're all right when you talk about meeting with like older people who like know like a lot of the classic rock and the old school metal guys who came out in the late 70s and 80s as well too. Because I think these days a lot of the music tries to, but they can't really seem to like mimic the intensity, that atmospheric pressure that just grips you, to be honest too. So I see what you mean, and I think everything else in terms of your story as well. Seems like you gained a lot of knowledge and everything too. So you learned like how to now function in a band. So I guess, are you in any new ones currently at the moment?
Just in one right now. I'm with a few guys from work, my former job, that we formed a band, and they're writing their stuff. They're trying to figure their instruments. They're just trying to figure how to write, and it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to write a song and write music, and but I'm playing with them right now. They want to perform. Hopefully they can, perform, and they have not played at all live studio work, nothing that I'm aware of. That they kind of told me, but they want to have fun, make some good music, and hopefully that, at least with my experience, I can at least share what I know, and then get out there and play. And that would be my dream thing to do, is start playing again live.
Yeah, it would be nice, but I guess did COVID kind of play a factor into that? I guess, how bad did COVID impact you, to get into the next question?
Not really much. I never got sick. I never got affected by it. I just had to work around, the workforce. At that time, I was a assistant produce manager at the time, so it affected me seeing other people be affected, and how people were treating each other at the time. Going to grocery stores was a nightmare. But I always wore a mask. I stayed to myself. I listened to the rules. They said go home, and but it was just crazy how the toilet paper thing was a nightmare to deal with. And the food business was just outrageous. Yeah, but I never got affected by it.
That's good to hear. And I guess you didn't have any brushes with it or anything? Anybody in your family?
I think my mom and dad got COVID because my parents are older, of course, the early 70s. So they got COVID. They made it fine. At the time, that's pretty much all I know. Oh, my sister got it, the drummer. She got it too, and she made it out fine. She got a few tests, and then she just rested, stayed away from people, quarantined herself, of course, and she came out of it just fine. I was just the lucky one not to get it.
I see. It's good to see you are doing well. It's good to see you guys made it through too. So good to have you along for this journey here, Mike.
Thank you.
But I guess here, let's jump into this one here, and throughout all your stories right here. In fact, we talked for a good over an hour right now, but I guess first off, did you play any other instrument before drums, like bass guitar or anything like that?
I played the trumpet for probably like for a year, and then I went to guitar I would say guitar was in more like my mid-teens to late teens. I got pretty good at it for a while, but this lost interest. My dad gave me a Gibson Les Paul Studio, then a Fender Strat American made in candy apple red, and the Gibson Studio was actually all white, and then black clear C knobs. Beautiful guitar. I mean, the Gibson Les Paul, if I was a guitar player, Gibson would be my go-to guitar. But it was only like for 5 years. I only played for 5 days. So I was playing the drums and guitar at the same time, but then I just went right to the drums full throttle from there. So,
well, leads into this question right here. It was, I guess, what is it that you love most about drumming?
The drumming part I love about it is knowing that you're making people happy around you when you're playing, you're able to project the energy towards your band members and yourself, and then the song, getting goosebumps and emotions when you're playing your music, or, going through your mind as you're hearing this song, you're possibly thinking, something that you did or whatever in your life that this happened to be your memory with that song. I like about music alone, playing live and playing the drums for me is bringing people together in a positive way. And just like having energy, having power, because I'm a power hitter, I'm a power drummer, and I like drummers in bands that are that way. And then it's a good workout. You lose a lot of calories being the drummer playing live and playing all the time and drumming. It's just, yeah.
We don't need no stinking gym membership.
Right, exactly. We burn calories. You don't need a gym. I don't know if you ever get this, but when you ever play and if you have to practice, practicing is horrible. I mean, but I always think about that. Have you ever seen that movie, The Rocker, that came out a few years back?
It sounds familiar, but I guess so. Who's in it?
The guy. Okay, I don't know the guy's name, but the guy that plays in the sitcom The Office. Well, he plays a drummer in this movie. It's actually a good, decent movie, actually. But it's funny because talking about, we don't need a gym. Every time he got off the stage, he'd wing his sweaty shirt and throw it to the audience. He was like, so, well, not really exaggerating. It does happen. But his drummer's shirt was so soaking wet, he slaps the girl right in the face with all his sweatshirt. It was funny. But, yeah, besides that, it's just, you tend to sweat a lot and burn a lot of calories and it feels great, but it doesn't really help when you're off the stage and you get off and you're like wet as like someone hosed you down.
And then you have to shower it all off afterwards too. So, and also to bring back Mike Madonna, I actually saw the behind the scenes, like when they did the music video for Dig, and there was one where he had to do like the drum parts over like probably numerous takes, to be honest too. So you imagine doing it from beginning to end for the song Dig, which is not an easy one to do, and it's probably pretty extraneous. Or
at the one he got on the floor and he's just like, "Oh man, I'm done." Was that the same one you're talking about?
It was like, "Oh fuck me," and then like he collapsed on the floor.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. They're doing the white background scene.
It was that. It was more of the quote afterwards. He's like, "I like to be brutalized. It helps my spirit."
Yeah.
So that's us drummers. We like to be brutalized. It helps our spirit.
It does, and that's the point you said right there. I think that is the 100% number one thing right there. It helps us bring our spirits high. It helps us be positive about ourselves, because you have to admit, not everybody does this. Not everybody can get on the drum set and just play that instrument. It's a very, just like yesterday, we had rehearsal yesterday, and the guys in my band, after we're done practicing, they get on my kit. MJ, can I play your kit? I'm like, yeah, go ahead, I don't care. And they get on my drum set, and then they're like, how do you do this all the time? And I'm like, well, guys, I've been doing it for like 34 years. But at the same time, I'm like, well, practice. It takes effort, energy, and coordination. A lot of guys say, oh, coordinate your hands. And I tell people, you have two different people that play the drums, or in any instrument, but especially the drums, is, you have guys who are naturally talented guys that get on the drum kit and they just get their almost an hour. Because for me, honestly, man, my first time getting in my drum set, my dad first got me my first drum set, I learned my first beat less than an hour. It was very natural for me. But then there's some guys on there that they have to work at it. They have to get on the kit. They have to, get their coordination down. They have to practice, and it's not easy. But a lot of guys tell me, like, how do you put the energy into it? It's just hard because you got to admit, hitting drumsticks and hitting the drum around your move. I mean, that's not easy. There's some days, man, where, I don't show it, but there's some days like my forearms will freeze up. They'll get tense and I have to stretch a little bit more. There's some days where, you're not feeling it, but you just got to, like you said, you just have to bring your spirit into the drum set and you'll catch on.
Absolutely too. And like I said, I might tie it to the last question when we get to it a little bit later too, but let's jump into the fun ones right now. Ready?
Sure.
All right. So let's start with the first one right here, I guess. What would you consider as your favorite drink in terms of alcohol and non-alcoholic drinks?
I'm not much of a drinker, but if I do go for a beer here and there, Coors Light, Coors, pretty all-rounder guy, man. I mean, I'll drink Heineken, IPAs, Mexican beers, Dos Equis or Corona. Four Peaks Brewery in Arizona. That's actually a very nice. You ever come to Arizona, man, you got to get a beer from them. They're really good. And then it comes to hard liquor. I go pretty much anything. Gin, vodka, Royale. I like Royale with Pepsi. People like Coke. I like it with Pepsi. But overall, man, I'm not really a huge drinker. Like yesterday at practice, the guys gave me a beer, and one beer's enough for me. But my boys in my band, they can pop those beers like no one's business. But those are the alcohol drinks I usually go for.
I was in Arizona one time, and I forget it was 2 years ago now, but we actually flew into Phoenix after we had a little debacle over there in Detroit because there was some sort of technical issue. So we arrived in Phoenix a lot later than we should have. And we went out to Flagstaff where the Four Seasons Hotel was. And then we drove in and around. We went to Sedona, actually. And then afterwards, we went to Grand Canyon. And then worked our way up to the lower half of Utah there where Bryce Canyon and Zion National Park are. So I was in Arizona, but I don't think I tried that beer you mentioned earlier, too. So I think next time when I'm there, it'll be on the list. So, or when we get together, we can actually have a drink together. Toast.
Yeah, if you come to Arizona, man, we can hook up sometime. That'd be cool.
That would be nice. But I guess this one isn't part of the fun questions, but I guess I always like to ask how the music scene is within each state, but also in the countries too. But just strictly for Arizona too, how has the music scene been ever since COVID kind of came and ravaged the area?
It was very quiet. Phoenix, Arizona has an event they have every first Fridays in downtown Phoenix. You can go and play anywhere in downtown, which is pretty cool. Watch your tip box. So that's something that happens every first Friday. But that's actually another goal I want to do is do the first Friday thing. Get my hand percussion down there, start playing some of my conga drums and bongos and doing something freestyling, or get one of my smaller drum sets and go down there. That happens a lot every month. Like I said, the Latin community out here is really high. They have a lot of mariachi bands, norteño bands, banda bands, Tex-Mex bands is very, very high in Arizona. And that's in a lot of your outside, people have like their Latin bands play like behind backyards and they have a barbecue. It's like I said, if you're a drummer that's going to be in a Latin group, there's tons of gigs out there that if that's your cup of tea, you can get a gig pretty quick out here for that. And they pay well too. I heard Latin bands pay their musicians pretty darn good. And then you have in Scottsdale, you have country is really, really high out there. Because, in Scottsdale, you have like back in the early 1900s and 1800s and the Western history, that was a lot of cowboy country and still is from today. There's some country bars out there, North Scottsdale, like in near Deer Valley, that have these cool, authentic country bars. And there's a lot of cool country bands out there that you can play. And then the newer part of Scottsdale has a lot of fusion jazz. I seen an artist that's local in Arizona, but she tours New York, and her name is Connie Cole. Reaching my early 23 and 22 years old, I went to go see her play. And her husband was her drummer. His name was Michael. He was an Italian drummer, but man, he was good. It was another drummer that sat in for him when he was doing some studio work for actually a famous artist. He was doing some side projects. I forget is an R&B artist, but he was doing some stuff for him. I forget the guy's name though. But anyway, her husband was over there in New York, and then this other tall drummer. He was a tall dude. And he sat in for filling in for him, and his name was Michael, filling for Michael, and then his name was Rick. And I remember when I saw Connie Cole play with this guy, oh my gosh, all the musicians in the fusion jazz scene. But every time I've seen guys in Scottsdale play, gosh, they're good. They're amazing, top-notch, A+ musicians. I'm talking, you don't mess with these guys. And so I really love the scene out there. It's high end, of course. Scottsdale is a very high end community. I don't know if you ever went out to Scottsdale, but if you ever do, you got to visit it. And downtown Phoenix, and downtown Phoenix is pretty cool because they have a lot of clubs down there. they have different, you can get a whole mix of music. You get, like you get jazz, and you get like, rockabilly at times. You can get like a more of a diverse scenery in downtown Phoenix in different clubs. You just got to find them, but they're there. And then in Chandler, Tempe, ASU, Arizona State University, a lot of college guys. So you got punk rock scene. You have, trying to think, the rave music's out there. You can't really play with rave music, but that's a lot out there. Lots of college kids like that punk rock, fast pace. Then you get the heavy metal out there, like in Mesa and Tempe area. So different parts of Arizona have a very diverse area, but there's so many things you can do in Arizona. It's growing. I mean, Arizona is not like, we're not like New Orleans. It's still a common thing, but you go out there, you can find a lot of cool diversity.
I think every state has some sort of diversity, but I think you just don't see it. Like, I know you mentioned New Orleans right there. I think the one band that comes to mind is the band called Down, which was Phil Anselmo from Pantera, for instance. So I think you do get some metal, but I don't think they're as open as like those, not polka bands, but I guess you know what I mean. The guys with the trumpets and everything too. So you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. It's good to see you guys are doing well out there too. So keep on rocking, brother. So
thank you.
To get back into the fun questions right here, the next two here deal with your drum covers, or I guess any sort of drum covers that you have done. So I guess, was there ever a song that was too tough for you to play? Did you give up, or did you come back after a while to finish?
I never gave up any song I ever did. Usually, if I'm going to learn a song that I have to learn, it's one of the hardest songs I learned. One of the hardest, man. It was more.
I mean, we're talking about Mac Madonna, to be honest, too. So I'm figuring that's probably going to be a tough one there.
Yeah, but what's funny with him is, like, I go back and I say, if you practice, when you get to the high, like, complicated drummers like him, Carter Buford, Dennis Chambers, and Tony Rusher Jr. I mean, these drummers are just out of this world, right? You really go back and you work on, what I do is practicing your rudiments on the kit. So when I hear a song, like, for example, I did attempt to do Mudvayne Happy, and I can do it. But I haven't touched that song in 5-6 years, so I'd have to go back and relearn it again. But that one was a tough one. I had to work on that I remember I first attempted it. When I learned a song like from him, I hear a song and I try to, like, first thing I hear the bass drum first. I go right to the bass drum, like, beat. What is he doing there? And then I will kind of like, then I'll hear the hi-hat second, and then I hear the snare the third. I actually do it a weird way how I learn the song. But he was one of the hardest songs. Happy was a tough one for me, because if you look at the song Happy, it's the beginning part is not hard. It's the second part that gets complicated, because he plays that a very off time beat on the hi-hat, but then his bass drum is really tricky. So learning that part, man, I'll be honest, man, that took me like 3 days. Took me like at least about a couple days to hear it, and I went back to it. But I never give up on the song. Now, if there's a song that, like, be honest, man, if there's a blast beat that's going 3 BPM, I mean, come on, I'm fast, but I'm not like super quick. That just takes a lot of practice to get those muscles that quick. If there's songs like that are just way out of my league, I mean, I'm not going to do it, because I'm not there at that point yet. So, what's the point? But I don't stop trying. But every song, majority of the common songs, man, I've ever learned, I don't give up on them. I never say, I'm going to do it later. I'll never do it again. No, I'm the kind of drummer that I go to the finish line, and I may struggle on the way, but I will get it done. The one song I do have on my Instagram that it was hard at first, it took me about, a few tries, was I do one of my best videos is Dave Matthews. It's called, oh my gosh. It's on the Crash album. It's the first track on the Crash album. It's not what would you say? It's oh my goodness. But it's on there. But that one was kind of complicated, because Carter Buford, as his hi-hat, he's known for his hi-hat licks, man. Amazing, crispy hi-hat player. I think the best one out there. When I had to learn that song, I had to really hear what Carter was doing on, certain parts, because he doesn't do a straight, tap, tap, tap. He does, I mean, it's weird, but it's hard. And if you don't hear those notes, you don't hear those licks, it can throw you off. And then going into the fill and then the ending and then how he does it. I mean, yeah, that took me about 2 weeks to master that song, and then I recorded it. So, yeah.
I see what you mean. So would you say that one would be your favorite drum cover, or I guess do you have one in mind that you think would be your favorite?
I would say that I like doing was my first Megadeth song. The Tornado was probably my favorite one.
Tornado Souls.
Mm-hmm.
Choice.
Yeah, I want to redo that song actually on my YouTube channel or redo it on my Instagram. Because that song was when it comes to heavy metal music, I also think Megadeth is hard. I mean, it's not hard like like Mudvayne kind of stuff, but it can be challenging because the songs are so long, there's so many parts to remember. But Tornado was my favorite one I did. It was really a challenge, and it was fun to remember because the one thing with Mudvayne, I think the challenge part in their music is all the parts you got to remember. There's like 3-4 verses in a song, and then you get your bridge, and you got your outro, and then your intro, and that's a lot of stuff to remember. So, but it's funny. I don't know if you experienced this, but learning so many songs, it almost enhances your memory better. I don't know if you go through that, but I have a good memory, and when I think it's over years learning so many songs, you just tend to remember things in detail, and that's what I do. But that was my favorite song.
I think ironically, now that you mentioned that too, it was I think yesterday I was trying like a song that I had done a drum cover on, but I couldn't remember some of it because it had just been that long, to be honest, too. So I think if you tried recently, maybe you couldn't remember like, oh, this is what we did right here, and it just flows naturally. But I think if you revisit a song like after a year, I think you kind of lose it too because you're so busy memorizing other songs too. So you see what I mean? It's
crazy. I did a Papa Roach song too on my Instagram, and it's really crazy, but it could be like a simple part in that one song where it has like a really weird off time. And Papa Roach, one of the songs I did, it's on the first album, the first track on the album. There's no, it's the second one. It's a very common song. I'm sorry, a very common song on the second album, on the second song on the first album. I think it's Cut My Life into Pieces, that song. And in the very like tail end of the song, there's a part where the drummer does this kind of like a fill pause, and he does a bass drum with just an off time, and that part was actually really challenging for me to get that on time. And that one took me quite a few rounds to get that one part down, just that little section. So, yeah.
That's actually Last Resort. That's the name of the song. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. And that's.
I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying it's a fun song to do. If you ever try it. It's really cool.
I think don't do the clean version because I think it's gonna like censor out most of the chorus line. To be honest, that's actually kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was talking about suicide, so it's kind of like a dark subject, that whole thing. So.
Oh.
So yeah, you see what I mean. And for our last fun questions, what would you consider as your favorite song or a song you've been listening to a good bit recently?
Like maybe my favorite song to do, or very favorite song that I'm listening now.
I guess listening now, or I guess one that you always be like, okay, we're always going to start with this one to kick off the music playlist or whatever.
I would think it would be. I would just listen to the new Chevelle album. The name of the first track, I don't remember what it is. It's just an instrumental, how they started, and I love how the band starts. It's just, and I never heard Chevelle do an instrumental before. And this newer album they are doing right now, it's a weird name, man. I think it starts with a V on it, but it's really cool. I've been listening to this first album, going back and forth to work, and I kind of want to cover that song too when I get the chance.
I think I remember the one you did, and I think I actually did an album review of that whole album as well. So I think it was Veritas or something.
That's it, man. You got it.
Something like that. Yeah, I may have pronounced it wrong. It might have been something else, but I know which one you're talking about too. So
that's what I've been listening to. That's if anything else is new, I've been listening to that one. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Mike, we're down to one more question in my podcast right here. And boy, we talked for a good bit here. But before we jump into it, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
Not really. I thank you for this opportunity, and it's been fun to be on your channel. Thank you for, taking me on.
No worries. And actually, thank you for sending the message out when I sent you a friend request on Instagram. So, or I should say follow request, because I think friend requests are for Facebook. So thanks for responding. And then I figured, it was 50-50. So it worked out in the end.
Thank you. Yeah.
No worries. All right. So, Mike, for the final question right here, given what COVID has done, obviously it seems like you and your family have been pretty blessed not to be impacted too bad. But I guess for those who have been impacted badly, regardless of people, ordinary people and musicians, what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there as we try to move forward in the post-COVID world?
I would say, we all suffer from COVID one way or the other. If it's sad to say, losing someone in the family, or maybe just getting sick with it, or just being the public eye, because COVID turned people against each other, in my opinion, like an apocalyptic feeling. That's what I thought. I guess, learn from it. We all got out of it as a whole, as a humanity. And, we were held down to do what we love to do. People lost their jobs because of it. People couldn't do their jobs because of the COVID. So I would think turning a negative that bad into a positive, what could you gain from that? What could you look as, what you missed and what you I think life is more appreciative now than it was back then. I mean, the government got on us for being out. We had to be home at a certain time. That was different. That was hard for a lot of people. Now for me, I can be inside the house. I'm a homebody, or I can go out. I can go either or. But I think COVID as a whole, as a nation of people, we have to learn to be blessed what we have and treat each other with respect, and, get through it together instead of, bashing each other and getting on each other's, nerves in a bad way. Learn to forget the past if you can and move forward from that. And that's what I think I would encourage people to just, learn from what happened to the world and, make it a positive, make your future happen, make it more of a light end in the tunnel.
Spoken like a true prodigy. And thank you so much, Mike. So, all right. So, Mike, we've reached the end of my podcast right here. We talked for a good bit, almost. Well, I guess also considering it's going to be like an hour and 20 minutes, because you always got to edit out the first part of this, part of this episode too. So it's all good. But I guess, did you have any shout outs or any final words you want to say before we close?
I kind of want to say, if Pearl ever sees this video, look, Pearl, want to be one of your drummers on your roster, or you're, being on with you guys one day. Thank you for making awesome drums. Again, man, thank you for your broadcast, for choosing me as one of your drummers to be interviewed. I appreciate that. Thank you, Vic Firth, for making 2 awesome sticks I do use for you guys. Evans drum heads. I play Evans drum heads, by the way. I love the EMAT bass drum heads you guys make. EC2s are awesome. The EC2. I think the EC2 drum heads across the toms make awesome drum heads too. I appreciate the gear. Pasty cymbals, making some awesome cymbals. So thank you for these companies, you guys, to make some awesome drums that I play and millions of the drummers play. So thank you for that.
Absolutely too. All right. And I know you mentioned the social media earlier, but just for the audience's sake again, can you just reiterate which social media you're on right now?
Yes, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads through a side project of Instagram. That's 3 right now, and YouTube coming end of this year. Hopefully this year is going to be my new YouTube channel. Promise.
All right, sounds good. So everyone, my guest today was Michael Jordan, hailing from Arizona right here. This guy's doing some wonders out there in his drumming. Be nice to get him on YouTube, and then go check him out. Go hit him up on the socials they just mentioned right now. This guy's going to go out and do some wonders out in the world too. And good luck in your band projects. They're made. So
thank you,
Mike. You stay safe, rock on, and stay tuned, y'all.